Okay, should be starting up. And live.
Yo, what up, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another game preview. We are previewing game 3 of the New York Knicks facing off against the Indiana Pacers. And with me on the other side is Tyler Smith. He covers the Indiana Pacers for IndySportsLegends.com. So make sure to go give him a follow on all social medias. Make sure to go check out his work. Come on, we should be doing that already. Seeing what the enemy is already saying, all right? We already know Indiana fans are coming through to the chat trying to see what we're talking about. So let's make sure to do the same thing and keep up to date with everything that's going on. Make sure to hit that thumbs up for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And Tyler, how are you doing, my man? How are you feeling?
I'm doing well. How about you? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. I'm doing well as I can be. I'm here in New York right now. People will not know my disclosed location. All right. As of right now, it looks like I'm outside Madison Square Garden. I might as well be outside Madison Square Garden rioting because God knows that the performances of the last 2 games deserve somebody to be outside just banging on the door saying we deserve better. But no. This is where we are, man. We are beaten at this moment, but we're still hopeful, some of us at least. And before we start kicking things off and deep dive, and I gotta talk about the breaking news that we got here. Shout out to CP, CEO, founder, the captain of KnicksFanTV. He tweeted out earlier. He's got word that Tom Thibodeau is considering a lineup change for tomorrow's game 3. And most likely the lineup change would be Josh Hart to the bench, Mitchell Robinson in the starting rotation. I'd be very happy to see that just because it would help us out defensively. We already see how impactful Mitchell Robinson is in this series and just all the other series. So I'm looking forward to it. Tyler, since you're here and you've been watching these games as well as I have, what do you think about Tibbs if he does make that lineup change?
It's interesting. I've, covering the game for a long time, I've seen lineup changes really work out. I've seen it backfire. You get to this stage and it's kind of like if you change up too much, does it, throw a wrench in everything else you're trying to do? But I think at this point they gotta do something. Robinson's a beast. He's been a beast. He's a problem. My question, I think my bigger question would be how are the minutes kind of dispersed after the start of the game? Do they stagger Cat and Robinson? Do they, you know, add more? Do they try to play more guys to try to mix things up a little bit and keep up with Indiana's pace a little bit more? So I'd be very interested to see how that goes, but I don't fault them at all for trying something else to start the game.
Yeah, and look, I think they're at the point where you have to do something different at this point. You're down 0-2 in a series. You lost both games at home. You got to make some sort of change. I mean, we saw what happened to Boston. I mean, we this is literally the same script as of right now as what the Knicks did to Boston. So we got to come out swinging. We can't go down 0-3. Then it's just you might as well just hop into the grave and just be like, out of pride, I guess you try to win one game, so it's not a sweep. But they got to do something. They got to bounce back tomorrow. And I've been asking for Mitchell Robinson to be in the starting rotation since the Detroit series. He's just a guy that can grab offensive boards, be a president in the paint. He knows how to rotate when it comes to just, being in switches. We've seen that even in the last game, even in the Celtics game where, it's just made its round over social media where Mitch covered all grounds and tagged essentially all 5 Celtics. And even in yesterday's game where you're seeing him just constantly staying in front or just switching while the defense is just in a frenzy just for what the Indiana Pacers are doing. We need that because as we saw in the fourth quarter, you have Karl Anthony Towns, campaign. They have no idea who they should be guarding on switches. And then next thing you know, you just get open three after open three. And then even though it's like 6, 7 points, which is still a manageable game, even in a fourth quarter where you have about 8 minutes to go, when you're facing the Indiana Pacers, it's just not enough time just because they constantly put their foot on the pedal. They are such an efficient team when it comes to scoring the basketball. And with the team that has struggled defensively, that being the New York Knicks, you got to do whatever you can just to make sure that you are within this match 4 points. I mean, we saw this all for the first 2 games. Like even when the Knicks tried to extend in game 1 and get like 10-point leads, Pacers were just right back in there. And so I'm more than happy to have Mitchell Robinson in that starting rotation. Will he stagger Cat and Mitch? I guess that's where Josh Hart comes in to make those type of rotations because we know he can play a little bit of four. He's a versatile player. I'm curious to see how that would work out, though. I'm very curious to see how that would work out.
Yeah, the Knicks starting five, I believe, is still a net negative for the playoffs, which is kind of mind-boggling. Um, but you also don't want a team like Indiana to get too comfortable. One of the strengths of the Pacers is they are able to adjust, and they've seen every kind of coverage, and throughout the whole season. But as comfortable as they were getting at the end of game one and in game two with their offense, to throw something different in there and see if you can get a better start to the game. Because the Knicks obviously have to get game three. And if they can do what the Cavs did, at least in game three only, kind of keep that crowd a little subdued because that place is ready to explode. If the Pacers get off to a hot start, if they can control the boards, control the tempo a little bit, show that they mean business and that it's going to be a dogfight, crowd stays a little subdued, Knicks have a much better chance. So I fully understand the switch, and we'll see if it works out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how that works out tomorrow with the switch. And let's talk about yesterday's game a little bit, Tyler, before we start getting into the details of what changes could be made for game three. Pacers obviously did what they do best. They fly around the perimeter. They always get back out in transition, defensively quickly. Even when they're trying to score, they get out quickly. They just stick true to what their identity is, which is no pun intended, moving at a fast pace. And so they have done a good job at that, while the Knicks have struggled to either stay in front of what they're trying to do or figure out what the next action is after their initial action, right? And so the Knicks have struggled with that defensively. That's why we're trying to get the change and see if that's, or potentially I should say, get the change and see if that changes anything. But from what I saw in yesterday's game, it came down to me, it came down to broken coverages where guys just don't know where to switch, and leaving guys open on the perimeter, or once again, leaving guys open for backdoor cuts. And then the other thing that I saw in yesterday's game is just poor coaching decisions, just like leaving guys like that campaign and Cat, line up out there at the beginning of the fourth where they didn't really have it going. Both guys just took terrible shots, and I'm like, that should have been cut a little bit quicker. Not leaving the starters in for too long in the third quarter, where we know that is just a lineup that has not worked at all throughout the entire regular season, and even throughout the postseason, they have struggled. Yet for the third quarter, which Tom Thibodeau loves to do, he just loves to leave that lineup in there the entire third, which is, I get that those are your guys, but you got to give them either a break or you got to go to something that actually is working for you, which we've seen work a lot for this team is the Brunson, McBride, OG, Bridges, and Robinson lineup. And I would expecting him to do that again since he played Mitch straight 16 minutes in the first quarter. And I was a little disappointed that he didn't go back to that. And there's other things too that we could talk about. And there's certainly aspects of the game where the players failed to execute on their own end. But for me, it comes down to a little bit of coaching as well as the players' execution in yesterday's game.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was a lot of moments, throughout both those games that it just felt like, Carlisle had the upper hand, which I know it's easy to say after a win and a loss. And I don't always agree with fans when they talk about, oh, we got outcoached because their team won. But I agree with you. Some of those things were a little head scratching. What I'm interested to see too is, you know, Tibbs kind of stubborn at times. So is he going to go back to, having Robinson in and Cat on the bench? I think at one point Cat was like minus 20, minus 25. Then when he came back in a couple of minutes, Knicks went on a little surge. So in his mind, did Cat have anything to do with that, or was it just more Brunson kind of went off there at the end to keep them alive in that game? So, and same question. I know we'll talk about adjustments later on, but that whole idea of, do you play more guys? But would that backfire because they're not used to it? Would it, do more harm than good? Like there's so many things that go with his coaching decisions that's going to be vital for their success. And he's obviously a great coach. He's done a lot of good things, but every single second of a series like this is important. Every single decision. And, on the Pacers side, they were not satisfied with a split, which was, good to see for Indy fans because they've kind of been a team that at times has, maybe laid an egg here and there when the game didn't mean as much. And who knows,
Hmm.
maybe they'll do that in game three like they did against Cleveland. But to go into Madison Square and mean business for both games was a big deal. But as we saw, it came down to Brunson having a three chance to tie in both games, and Cat had one as well in game one, and they just didn't hit those shots when they needed. But very interested to see the adjustments and kind of the coaching decisions as you alluded to as well.
Let me ask you this, because from a Knicks perspective, when I'm looking at uh, Brunson has a chance to potentially tie this thing, right, and then extend this into overtime, and there's 14 seconds left on the clock, 14.4 to be exact. I was upset that Tom Thibodeau didn't call a timeout, just trying to design a play that would get Brunson a good look since he's, or him or Karl Anthony Towns. You got both of them out there. But I'm going to stick more so with Brunson because he's been, our clutch player. He did win the Clutch Player of the Year award. Were you shocked that he didn't call a timeout and just kind of let Brunson just run the ball up and then heave a three? To me, that was just I want him to call a timeout. I get that you don't want the defense to get set, but for me, I thought he should have called a timeout, considering you have one left and it's going to be pointless afterwards if
Yeah.
you don't make the shot and Pacers, which they ultimately did, get the rebound.
Yeah, I kind of thought they would. I was probably even more surprised by Brunson's decision, and I think Van Gundy alluded to it where he was like, maybe he thought they were going to foul, so he wanted to get a quick shot off. But you saw Josh Hart's reaction. You saw just it was pretty quick, long shot. He's made plenty of those before, but I think I was more surprised with that. The team that I cover, they hardly ever call the timeouts. Carlisle makes those quick timeouts like to stop runs, but when it's late in the game, he almost never calls it. I mean, you saw the Cleveland game two and all these other moments where it's like Tyrese, go make a play. So I'm kind of used to that on offense, but for a team like the Knicks, I think they could have drawn something up to get a really good look. If the Pacers were going to foul, probably would have been early enough where they could still have another chance and extend the game.
Yeah, it still irritates me to this day. I'm like, what is like just call the time. And the bigger thing for me, Tyler, is that I've seen the success of just calling a timeout, running a set play for Jalen Brunson, and for the most part, it creates a great look for him, and he's able to knock them down. And he's a good movement shooter. So that's what just threw me off. Where we've seen the success before, and it just seems like a brain fart. Where you can't have brain farts like this when you already lost game one, where the Pacers just came out of nowhere and just you have Aaron Naismith just go nuclear, go 6 or 7 from downtown and get you 20 points in that fourth quarter. And then, you there's some missed calls, of course. You don't get the goaltending. There's a questionable did Siakam foul OG? So there's stuff like that that's still haunting you. So to me, it's like you can't allow a game like that where you're just allowing everything on the margins just to slip away. You just can't. From a
Yeah.
Pacers standpoint, I say that they continue to do the same thing every night in and night out. Is there anything that you saw in game two from game one that they did to really put the pedal to the metal?
Well, honestly, the biggest strength of this team is how much of a team it is. I mean, it may sound cliche, but all five starters are averaging over 14 points, which has never happened, I believe. I think I saw that stat as far as the first two rounds go, and now we're, coming up on game three of the third round. It's never happened. That kind of um, just it's insane the amount of passes that they make in a game and how they limit turnovers at the same time. And so after game one, I saw a lot of people, a lot of Knicks fans, a lot of basketball fans, tweeting and saying things like, well, they had to have all that happen. They had to have Neesmith, play like Michael Jordan for a while, Steph Curry for a while in order to win. And the Knicks were the better team. And so they felt okay. My response to them, and Pacer fans do this all the time as well, and I've been trying to tell them all postseason, one game means absolutely nothing for the next one. Every game has its own identity. And so I responded to some people saying like, they may not need Neesmith to do that in the next game. And what happened? Siakam at 39 points. I mean, it's just like Neesmith was fairly quiet, hit a couple big shots and a couple big free throws at the end, but every single game is so different. And so when you go in and absolutely steal a game like they did in game one, it's not just a typical, oh, it's one game. It was, should have been ours. It was taken from us, flips the narrative. Even if you were the better team in that game, the only thing that matters in a playoff series is winning that game or not. And so they lost, Pacers won. Um, and they can just beat you in so many different ways. And so, I mean, there will be nights when Tyrese is more passive and he's, in the lane and he's kicking out passes instead of trying to shoot. There'll be nights when he goes for 30, like in game one. I mean, there's nights when, Nimhard did nothing and then in overtime scores like 7 points out of nowhere. I mean, it's just, they're so hard to game plan for that it's not like this moment where it's like, okay, in game three, they're going to try this or this. They're going to try to take what the Knicks give them. And if they're hitting shots and if they're limiting second chance points, then that's when they're extremely difficult to beat. And they're hard to game plan for. So I would just say more of the same ball movement, and one of their weaknesses can be their bench at times. Even though they are deep, they have several guys that can just disappear. Matherin Matherin disappeared in game two. As you guys know, Toppin, McConnell, even. Um, Bryant, like so many of these guys can forget how to play basketball for several minutes and then go on one of their heaters and it's out of nowhere. But that's where the Knicks can actually, if they're hoping for a win, that the Pacers are not, making as many shots. Knicks are getting offensive rebounds, and then the bench is having one of their off nights. But
Yeah, we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens, especially tomorrow. I mean, I know you talk about the depth and all of that being interesting, but TJ McConnell still bothers me, man. That man bothers me to no end. This man, I've spoken to multiple people who covered the Indiana Pacers. They were like, TJ McConnell this season hasn't been that great this year, and I'm like, y'all lying to me because this man is playing possum. He has played the first two games. He's back out there doing the thing that he does against the Knicks, which is starting to get into the paint and knocking down shots, which just irritates the living daylight out of me, man. So look, I get that it comes down to depth and seeing what the Pacers are going to do, and hopefully the Knicks are able to continue to play at a high pace and just and max out the limited rotation that we have because Tibbs is not going to go past 7.5, and I say 7.5 because campaign is. I don't want to see him, but I'm sure that he is still going to get some minutes just because you're going to need somebody to go in there and relieve Brunson and play point guard. But we'll see what happens with that. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another game preview. We are previewing game three of the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks facing off. The Knicks will now go over to Indy and go see if they can go get a game over there in game three. With me on the other side is Tyler Smith. He covers the Pacers for IndySportsLegends.com. Make sure to give him a follow. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And people, let me tell you a little bit about Underdog Fantasy right now, okay? Why you should go join it and why it's a lot of fun. Look, like I say, I like to think I know a little bit more than what underdogs tell me. I watch a lot of sports. I think that I can predict and I know what's going to happen on a night-to-night basis. So that's why I go onto the app and I, put a little money down, see if I can get some money back. And the cool thing about Underdog Fantasy, you get two options. You can either do the daily fantasy draft or you can make a ticket. If you're making a ticket, all you got to do is just choose anywhere between 2 to 8 players and choose higher or lower on any given stat. The cool thing is, it doesn't have to be one sport. You can choose between either, I should say, you can mix and match between either baseball, basketball, hockey, all the leagues, anything that you're interested in, you can create that ticket by mixing and matching. And like I said, all you got to do is just choose higher or lower for any given stat. So let's say for tomorrow, Brunson's been doing well. They might jack this thing up a little bit. So let's say they put Brunson over at 30.5 as the stat line. I'm still going to go higher because Brunson can't be stopped. So that's all you got to do is just choose higher or lower for any given stat. The cool thing as well is that let's say you don't believe that all your picks are going to hit, you can go the insured route. So that way you can still earn a little bit of cash. If you think 3 out of the 4 picks are going to hit, you go the insured route, get some money back, and just make an easy night of it. All right. Unless you want to go big or go home, then just lock it in and go believe that all your picks will hit. Now, if you don't want to go create a ticket, the other thing you could do is do the daily fantasy draft. Cool thing about the daily fantasy draft, put on your GM cap, see if you're better than your friends or a bunch of randos, put some beer money down, lunch money, whatever you want to call it, and see who can predict and who can create the best roster to compete on that given night. So Underdog Fantasy gives you two options, great options to stay engaged with sports and to stay connected with your friends. So make sure to go support our sponsor. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. That's our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. All right. And people, remember, watch party tomorrow starting at 6 p.m. This time, we're not at Slate, we're at Clinton Hall. So make sure, put that into your Google Maps, get down to Clinton Hall, get there by 6 p.m., go get some drinks, go support the Orange and Blue while they're on the road facing the Indiana Pacers. All right. Out in Indiana. Come on, people. We got to do what Goku does. We gotta give that energy for the spirit bomb. We gotta go up there, put our hands to the sky, and pray that the Knicks can come out with a victory tomorrow. So make sure to go over to Clinton Hall tomorrow, starting at 6 p.m. Go join your fellow people in the Orange Blue Nation and go support the Knicks, baby. Let's get it going. All right, let's get back to it. All right, Tyler. So let's look at let's look at game three, man. You know, this is a very pivotal game at this point. I mean, every game is pivotal for any team, right? But it was a must win for the Knicks in game two to be like, all right, things are back in the balance. We can go over to Indy, go win one, and then go home, or and you know try to take another one on the road. Now we're down 0-2, lost both games on our home court. Now we're looking to just get a game out in Indianapolis and see, or I should say Indiana, and see what happens. What do you expect? What do you expect the Pacers to do tomorrow? Is it the same thing? Are there going to be any changes?
For the Pacers, probably not, other than, if the Knicks do make that change in the lineup, just seeing how they try to attack that. Are they going to try to play through Siakam? Or are they just going to move the ball and try to knock down some early threes and, get the crowd into it, make the Knicks make some adjustments on the fly. But it's pretty much status quo. Pacers trying to utilize their strengths and kind of take what the defense gives them. So, one of my big questions, curious your thoughts on this, for the Knicks, do they need major adjustments or do they simply need to make winning plays, as Tibbs talked about? Because, again, they're right there. They had chances to tie. Obviously, a huge blown lead. Could have won both games, could have won at least one of the two. So is it more about making the big plays and doing what kind of got them here? Or do they need to make big changes, or is it kind of a mix of both? What do you think?
Tough because when you talk about big plays, I mean, that's just kind of how this team has lived throughout both the last two series. I mean, you look at Brunson and that the breaks that he put on Asar Thompson just to go skidding to the left and knock down that three, right? I mean, that's a big play right there. That's not a design. That's Brunson saying, "All right, you all clear out. Let me get my space. I know what I want to do to get to my spot." Right? That's not Tibbs drawing up a play for him. That's Brunson saying, "I know what I want to do." Then you go to that Celtics series, right? And you say, "Hey, you have Mikal Bridges 2 games in a row where he's just game one hits that clutch three from the corner that goes off the window, right? And then he gets a steal on Jaylen Brown to close it out. Next, follow that night up with, going on an extreme heater in the fourth quarter, also getting a steal from Jason Tatum to close out the game. And then so you're seeing these late game heroics from the Knicks, right? Where the talent is just rising above what the system that you have in place is. And so do they need a little bit of like these big games? Absolutely. I mean, look, you need a little bit of luck. You need a little bit of that stuff just to get you to the next level, right? It's this common saying that we all say, whether it's not outside of sports, but in life, you need a little bit of luck. But the other thing too is that there needs to be a better game plan than what we had yesterday, just to put us in position, right? What we could talk about going back to real life, like any career path you want to go on, and when you're putting when you're like laying brick by brick, right? And you want to position yourself for success. So you have to make sure you're doing the right things, making the right decisions, making the right plays, so that way that luck can be on your side because you've already worked on it so well. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both because the way that the Pacers are playing, the way that the Pacers are playing and how the Knicks have played the entire season up to this point, it's very rare to get a game 6 type performance against the Celtics where they're just blowing out a good team. And the Pacers are a good team, right? So they need to change it up. I know they're switching right now. It's tough considering that they really didn't do that during the regular season. So now we're looking for these guys to be essentially damn near perfect in the postseason when they haven't really practiced that much outside of using it against the Celtics for 6 games. And with the speed that Indiana plays at, it's a little bit more challenging because to recover and make sure they don't have space is the difficult part. So I still think they have to do more switching. Definitely don't go into drop coverage because this team will certainly knock down threes. Um, but then you do need that little bit of luck. And it's how do you position yourself for that? It's like what I said for game 2. Call the timeout, draw up a play. Brunson could knock down a three, most likely if you design a play after a timeout. So why not do that for him? So that's a prime example right there where you got to put the player in position to succeed to get that little bit of luck. So
Yeah.
yeah, they got to have both, man, to answer your question.
Yeah.
Um, but let me ask you this, because you're watching these games, right? And you see what the Knicks are doing. What would you do if you're in the Knicks position to slow down what the Pacers are trying to do?
Um, well, I mean, the really tough part is defensively as a tandem. When Brunson and Cat have both been on the court, it's been brutal. Pacers have attacked that. They've really exposed it, but it's also, typically your two best players. So it's how to counter that. So I do kind of agree with them making a change. I've seen a lot of Knicks fans that actually wanted McBride to be the one that's in the lineup, but a quick sub for Robinson and play more minutes. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on if they were to go to that route as well. Um, and again, the question I keep bringing it up. I'm very curious if the Knicks should try to tap into the depth a little more because they have guys that, I mean, you can't tell me that like Ben Shepherd and Allen and Thomas Bryant are necessarily better than a lot of those guys at the end of the Knicks bench. But the Knicks are just not used to playing, at least for a while in these playoffs. They're not used to going that deep. So would it backfire if they did that? Or would they get a little bit more juice, confuse the Pacers enough and have that energy later in the game? Because we even saw in game 1, it looked like before overtime, it looked like the Knicks were kind of gassed. And it's not just about rest in between games, it's about just the game itself. So I'm curious on that. Again, it could totally backfire if he plays a few more guys. Pacers torch him for a few minutes and they're in trouble. But to this point, they've done better, with a couple subs in. So I don't know. They got to figure out, if they're going to Siakam early and often, they got to find a way to take him out of get to the spots where he wants to get to. Because man, when he's rolling, and then you also have shooters all over the court, that is trouble for teams. But I think too, not it's not really an adjustment, but they need a third player to have a huge night in game 3 because the Pacers do not care if your star player scores 35 to 45 points. I mean, they're 10-2 in the playoffs. And I had a tweet a couple days ago of Antetokounmpo 35, 38, 41, Donovan Mitchell 45, 35, 38, and it's loss, 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 loss. Brunson has some of the what was the most points of the first 2 games of conference finals,
Mhm.
since LeBron or whatever it is, and it's 2 losses. So he can score his 35. The Pacers don't care if there's not other guys stepping up as well. So the Knicks have to have that really second, but really that third guy that kind of goes off and takes some pressure off Brunson.
It's so fascinating to see how, because I feel like that conversations are always out there, right? Where do you try to limit the star player from him getting into their bag, or do you freeze out the role players? And to your point, I don't know if they necessarily have frozen out the role players on the Knicks. I think it's a little bit that yes, the Pacers are doing their job and sticking to their assignments, but also our role players have just not risen to the occasion whatsoever. Whether that be OG Anunoby, whether that be Mikal Bridges, even though Mikal Bridges did have a decent game yesterday, Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, 20 points for him, it might as well equate to like 10 or 15. He
Yeah.
really needs to be at 30 points to really get the value of who he is as a player. I would say that, yeah, it's we do need another guy that goes out there and goes and score. I'm not really expecting Josh Hart to be that, just because he's more of like a do everything type player. It comes down to Bridges and OG to really give us that success that we're looking for. And when you even go through the prior series of what the Knicks have done, when they've won games and they've looked better, not great, but better, it's because Cat's getting over 25 plus points. It's because Brunson's getting 30 points. It's because Bridges and OG have both gotten over 20 or more points. And so that's what we really need from this team. And it just seems so out of rhythm at this juncture in this series. And so we need those guys to get back into rhythm, more so OG than anything else. Like this is a guy that was showing something at the end of the regular season where he was looking confident, did a little bit of creation for himself, more than capable of finishing through contact, knocking down threes at a high level. And we haven't really gotten that from him, and especially the timely threes. He was usually good at giving us timely threes. Just haven't gotten that from him this series. And I mean, yesterday he just got dog walked by Pascal Siakam. Siakam just had his way with him, and
Hmm.
it kind of felt like big brother, little brother. Like, yo, we used to practice with each other in the gym, and I know exactly how you're going to try to guard me. And Siakam got everything that he wanted. So that needs to change too, because as you've already talked about, we got to force other players to beat us. And while Halliburton's not going to be that guy that's consistently dropping 30, he is going to find that guy that's in rhythm and make sure that he creates for that guy to get the good looks. And so that's just the other difficulty in this series as well. So tough, man. It's tough. Who do you think for the Pacers are going to have, before I let you go, who do you think on the Pacers are going to have a big game tomorrow? We've already gotten the Halliburton game. We've gotten the Naismith game. We've gotten Siakam game. Who's the next guy? Who should I be? If you tell me TJ McConnell, go lose it. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Ben Shepherd's going to drop 35. No, not really.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Man, that's a tough one, even for like, a lot of fans will say, "Who do you think?" Because they're on the all those apps and everything, trying to figure out their parlays and stuff. And it's like the Pacers are a really hard team to predict because of the depth, as we said. But also, and this is one thing that might give the Knicks a little bit of hope, is the only losses that the Pacers have had this postseason were both the game threes.
Mm.
So they had 2-0 leads in both series and then dropped game three. So the Knicks are hoping for that to happen. And then all of a sudden, Tuesday's game four becomes this massive game. Um, but I think I would probably go with Halliburton, um, because typically I think he had, was it 11 or 14 in game two? Like it wasn't a huge number. Um, Typically, he doesn't have back to back that often that are under, 20, 25. I think he's motivated. He's really focused. He talked about, of course, it's one thing to talk and another thing to do it, but he talked about how they've had game three letdowns and he wants to, come out strong. So, maybe there's a little more emphasis on Siakam. And if the two bigs are playing for New York, maybe some high action or some transition will get Halliburton going a little bit, but really hard team to predict as far as who's gonna show up for that big game and in that moment. But if I were picking one, I think Halliburton will have a big game three.
Halliburton with a big game three. Okay. I'm going to go for the Knicks perspective. I'm going to go with. You know what? I'm going to make the bold prediction that it's going to be OG tomorrow. I think OG finally gets into rhythm, and that's what we really need to happen. We need him to knock down those timely threes, as I mentioned. We need his defense to be better. I mean, I was when I first saw that he didn't make an all defensive team, I was a little upset considering how talented he is defensively. But then yesterday he didn't really make a good case for me to be upset. So I need him to bounce back and really show me that he is more than capable of stopping Siakam. And this is a guy who just knows how to like reach into the cookie jar and just like disrupt the passing lanes too. So, and
Hmm.
he, So I need OG to have a big game tomorrow. I think he should. And then what we really need in order for that to happen is for Brunson to make sure that everyone's getting their touches because Brunson can easily go get his against the Pacers. No one's going to have an answer for Brunson. And I
Mhm.
think that's also just kind of like the trick of the Pacers too, saying that we're not going to be really able to stop you. We'll let you take all your shots. But if you're going to take all your shots, we're going to allow you to keep your guys out of rhythm. And that's kind of what it's looked like these last couple of games. So I hope that Brunson recognizes that because we do need OG to step up in this series. So that's my prediction for tomorrow. Tyler, I appreciate you joining me on today's show to preview game three between the Knicks and the Pacers. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. If you got any up and coming work, we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, main thing is on Twitter, Tyler Smith _ ISL, IndySportsLegends.com, some other outlets, random stuff, Journal Review out of Crawfordsville. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think could still be a long way to go in the series. No matter what happens, it's a blast for this rivalry, and I think it's even though it's the second year in a row, I think there's going to be several more matchups in the future the way these teams are set up. So a lot of fun to be at this stage, and appreciate you having me on again.
Of course, Tyler, appreciate you for coming through and previewing this game. Everybody, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to give Tyler a follow for for all the hard work that he does in covering the Indiana Pacers. I know that sounds a little gross to say that to Knicks fans, but hey, man, we're trying to get all aspects and coverage of this series, so make sure to do so. And look, as a reminder, make sure to go support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. Also, remember, get over to Clinton Hall. Clinton Hall is where we're having the watch party tomorrow at 6 p.m. Make sure to get over there to go and be part of the Orange and Blue Faithful and root for the Knicks as they take on the Indiana Pacers. Make sure to get there at 6 p.m. once again. Also, give us your thoughts on the potential lineup change for tomorrow. Do we think it will be Mitchell Robinson in the starting rotation for Josh Hart? Who do you guys think it should be? Do you guys have another opinion? Do you think it should be Deuce McBride? As Tyler mentioned, maybe that's another option for Tom Thibodeau tomorrow to put McBride in the starting rotation over Josh Hart. Let us know what you think in the comment section in the chat. We need to get your thoughts and opinions. So let us know about that as well. And as you already know, we're going to be doing play-by-play tomorrow. We're going to have post-game. So make sure to stay locked in and tapped in because we're going to give you the coverage that already know that you need here at KFTV. All right, everyone. And let me shout out a few franchise channel members as we got here as well. Shout out to the 50th Burger. Let's go, Knicks. Appreciate you. We got, who else we got here? We got Flow174. Appreciate you. We got Nanga Eboko. Shout out to you. We got P McG. Shout out to you as well. Who else we got in the chat? Who else do we got in the chat? We got, let's see. Oh, we got the regular KG74 on here. We got John Talento. Shout out to John Talento, man. We got Flow174. We got Mr. Don. Shout out to you as well. Appreciate all of you for coming through. Respect Shaq, always in here. Appreciate you, my man. Who else we got in here? We got Freak NY. Appreciate you as well. Hey, appreciate the shells for being here. Shout out to you for being a mod. Shout out to all our mods as well for doing the hard work. Okay. We got Malachi Goodrich in here too. Appreciate all you D Cannon 93. Let's go. All right. Appreciate you all for tuning in. And you already know what to do. We'll be back again tomorrow covering this team. So thank you once again, everyone. We out.
All right.
Damn, I just saw your message, CP. It was